Leader Harris, congratulations. I would like to direct your attention to Rule 7, which I believe is on page 11 of the resolution, concerning the vacancies of the clerk, something that happened very recently in this chamber. And specifically, I want to ask about the assistant clerk position, because the assistant clerk position is very important to us as a minority. And as you know, the minority, it's usually the person who is nominated who does not receive the most votes when we first convene that becomes the assistant clerk. And the current assistant clerk is a vital part of our team in the House Republican Caucus. So under what is proposed in House Resolution 59, it says here, whenever a vacancy in the office of assistant clerk exists due to resignation, death, removal, disability, or other inability to act, the Speaker may appoint an acting assistant clerk to perform the duties of the assistant clerk until a successor is elected by the House. The acting assistant clerk shall not be of the same political party as the clerk. So there is nothing in the rules that allows for interaction with the minority leader to pick the assistant clerk if there's a vacancy in that position. Is that correct?
It's my understanding, Representative, that in the regular process of selecting the clerk and the assistant clerk, the language and how that is done is similar, and it has always been the practice in appointing the assistant clerk for the Speaker to appoint the person designated by the minority leader.
But that is not in the rules, correct? If you'd like to pull the resolution from the record, I'm sure we'd be happy to see that.
No, that's fine. I just want to be sure I'm giving you a complete and accurate answer. Yeah. Accuracy and transparency take time, Representative, and we want to be sure we're getting them in here.
I think we need to take a lot more time on this one then.
Okay, so I'm informed. I just need to clarify the statement I made that the initial election is made during the inauguration of the House members. We all vote to elect the clerk and the assistant clerk, but the recommendation for the person who would become the assistant clerk is taken, I believe, from the minority party.
But there's no requirement for that. The speaker, if my reading of the rules, the Speaker has the ability to appoint the assistant clerk as long as it is a person not of the same party as yours.
I believe that this is consistent with current rules. It does not change anything.
So it could technically be someone we really don't want coming into our caucus, for our caucus meetings, which the assistant clerk does currently.
I think in our practice, we have always followed the wishes of the minority.
Okay. Another question about the timing of the appointment of an acting and a new clerk or assistant clerk if there's a vacancy. In reading both the language on both the clerk and the assistant clerk, it says the acting clerk shall perform the duties of the clerk until a successor is elected by the House. There's no time frame there. There's no. I mean, so you could have an acting clerk for the entire General Assembly, I assume, if that's the case.
Well, and I think that contemplates we do not know when the vacancy would occur, if it would occur during session, or at what point during session, if there would be recess, or if it would be sometime in the summer where there would be many months before the House reconvened in order for that election to be made.
But there's nothing in the rules. Again, there's no time frame. So it could be I mean, we could have something in the rules that say within 10 session days a new clerk should be voted on by the House or anything.
But that would not provide for the occasion of a many-month lapse when the position would need to be filled.
But you can fill it by the acting clerk. I'm talking about the election of the clerk, that like we did in the 100th General Assembly. There's no time frame as to when that vote should take place.
No, there is no specification on the time of the election.
Okay. The last question I have. So is this an admission by the majority that you did not have the authority to appoint an acting clerk in the 100th General Assembly, despite my dear friend, the clerk that I voted for there. But is that what I take from the old rules, that you didn't have the ability to appoint an acting clerk?
Representative, the rules did not specifically give the authority, nor did it forbid it, so the rules were silent on
we went to
this and
Robert's
some
Rules of
other
Order?
issues. And if you remember, a lot of these issues were recommended, by the assistant clerk on your side, of some of these clarifications of instances that happened that were not foreseen by, either side of the aisle as occurring. So I think this is a good faith effort to be sure that as we've identified, circumstances that had not been anticipated, but that occurred in the last couple of years, that we've addressed those so that there is a clear way in rules to be sure that we proceed correctly and fairly.
To the resolution, and to echo some comments that were made earlier, these rules are not transparent. These are not a new way of doing business. This is the same old way of doing business for the Illinois House of Representatives when it comes to the rules. These are the arcane things that the public does not pay a lot of attention to, that actually has tremendous impact on their daily lives as to how their people's house is governed. These are not good rules. These are not significant changes as have been suggested by some of my colleagues, and I would certainly urge a no vote on this resolution.